Welcome to Far East Wargaming, bringing you another Heresy Thursday. I'm Richard, your host, and it's a pleasure to once again welcome Jason.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be back once again. Thanks for joining us on another Heresy Thursday.
So this week, we're going to look at some of the articles that have come out for Warhammer Community and do a bit of a catch-up of the last couple weeks that we have missed. And there's been quite a lot of exciting stuff for Horus Heresy.
Yeah, indeed. We've got a little bit of everything. We've got some artwork. We've got some new models for the Solar Aux, as well as most recently a new character as well for the Legions. And we have some new rules for everybody's favorite, the Blackshields and Shattered Legions. I'm really excited about that one, to be honest.
Yes, I think that's going to be a big thing. So let's dive straight into that there. This is the article by about the new book. I think it's called the Battle of Beta-Garmon. And this is where they're introducing the Blackshields and the Shattered Legions.
Yeah, I think we very briefly touched on this in the last Heresy Thursday because we are behind. We didn't go into in-depth on it. But for those that don't know, it's just worth recapping. What are the Shattered Legions? The Shattered Legions are essentially the survivors of Isfahan 5, the Raven Guard, my favorite, the Iron Hands, and of course the Salamanders, and the way they banded together under various warlords or leaders, either as traitors or loyalists, mostly loyalists. But it could also refer to a lot of different, groups thrown together over the course of the heresy. We finally, it looks like, have rules for that. It also looks like we have some decals or other things that we'll talk about in just a minute. And then the Blackshields, of course, were just the bands of roving. They could be pirates. They could be heroes to the local populace. They could be all kinds of different things. Traitors, loyalists, it doesn't matter. They've decided to basically give up their allegiance to anybody and kind of do things on their own. But sometimes they did work in parallel with the various forces. So that's a little bit of the backstory, and it looks like we finally have these rules that people have been yelling for since 2.0 dropped.
Yeah, it's exciting. The Shadow Legions, I've seen this played in a couple places, and it's really interesting how you can just combine the different legions from the Dropsite Massacre, the Salamanders, the Raven Guard, and the Iron Hands, and make them into a cohesive force. And it's nice to finally get the rules for how they would be played, as opposed to playing them kind of as allies and things like this. But what actually really excites me is the Shattered Legions, because the Blackshields, because there's so much potential to play with the art style and the painting style for the Blackshields. Because, as you said, the Blackshields are the Astartes who no longer follow their Primarch, be that because they are loyalist in the Traitor Legions or traitors in the Loyalist Legion, that kind of thing. And they're banding together, and I've seen some great pieces of painting where they're shading black over different colors of the original Legion there, and keeping maybe half a shoulder pad of the original Legion symbols whilst converting over to the new ones. But as you pointed out, there seems to be some new insignia.
There is. And before I comment on that, just if you're a modeler and a hobbyist, or you prioritize that in the way that you approach the heresy, and I'm one of those people that actually does, bat reps aside, going to events aside, and all these different kinds of things, I actually love most the modeling and painting aspect of the hobby. I'm super excited about both of these forces because they are a converter's and painter's dream. Because if you're talking about Blackshields, you're absolutely right. You have a lot of freedom on the color. You have the ability to mix and match different Legion bits together. You have the ability to even cut apart Mark 6, Mark 3, Mark 4, and all these different things and mix and match them sometimes on the same character. This is the forces for you if you're into that. And we don't know what the rules are. We have no idea what they are. So we can't say if they're going to be good or bad. But if you're into that aspect of the hobby as much as I am, that's what's so exciting about this. And kind of coming back to your comment about the photographs on Warcom for the article, it looks like there's a new decal set. Because if you look at the examples, which is these guys in black with the gold or the bronze armor trim, different panels painted with this, you see that there's some emblems on the chests and on the shoulder pads that are unlike anything else that we've seen. They don't look like they're coming from other decal sheets, because some people in the past have rated even 40K or Mechanicum or whatever forces to get their decals for their Blackshields. This looks like something that is new and specific to this particular force.
You're right there. Those decals do look new, and I love the way they've actually modeled this force, especially because it's been done by Games Workshop, means that they're embracing it. It's different marks. It's the Mark III and Mark VI in the new size. You could, of course, mix in all the other mini marine marks, so the older Mark III, the older Mark IV, and if you have the resin Mark IIs. I think for some legions it works best. The Shadow Legions, you can really play with it. For the Shadow Legions, you can play with it. I would include less Mark VI for the Shadow Legions, because they, in my opinion, wouldn't have access to the Mark VI after the drop site massacre. But for the Blackshields here, you can definitely play around with this.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff to take in on this, right? Like if we look at one of the guys, he's carrying a Volkite Serpenta pistol, and he's carrying a power maul. And that power maul, I can't tell if it's from like the old Mark IV or Mark II upgrade kits. It looks to be a little bit too big for that. Is that a sign of perhaps another, sprue or something like this that's coming out? Maybe. Is the pistol from the jet bikes, the new plastic jet bikes? Quite possibly. You see a lot of different armament here as well, and some of that could be possibly a hint at maybe a new sprue. We don't know. But you definitely can mix and match so many different things here. We've got Mark VI World Eaters heads on a Mark III body, and we've got everybody with different armament. Does that suggest that the rules are going to allow much more freedom and customization in terms of the unit loadouts, almost like veterans in every single squad? There's just a lot of different things to take in here, and I actually think this color scheme that GW is using on these guys looks really cool. You don't by any means have to go with this color scheme, but yeah, there's just so much freedom with this, and not that you don't have freedom with your Legion as is, right? I mean, from a pure fluff perspective, all of the legions over the course of the Heresy were forced to scavenge, restock, resupply if they weren't near the main supply lines or part of the main forces, these kinds of things. So you're perfectly justified in mixing and matching everything. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't. But this is almost tailor-made for you to do exactly that. And I think there's just a lot of really cool things here, and I'm really excited to see this.
Yeah, I think for the Blackshields or the Shadow Legions, I think what'll be fun if you're sticking to the latest plastics, so the Mark IIIs and the Mark VIs, and I think we're getting the Mark IVs in the new scale as well, coming very soon. Mix and matching the bodies, the arms, and the shoulder pads kind of things would be very fitting for these legions, where they'd be scavenging every single type of pauldron, of leg guard, of arm elbow pad, things like this. Mix and matching would really match this this force and really make it shine. And if I'm not mistaken, I've not yet to see the Mark IIIs in person, but I think they do fit on the Mark VIs.
They do, yeah. Like for my own stuff, I mix and match a lot. So I'm already using even older Mark IV pads and heads on Mark VI and Mark III bodies, just for variety and just kind of the ramshackle nature, like I mentioned before. It all fits fine. I mean, you can see plenty of examples of it online. It's not like we're revealing anything spectacular here. But yes, you can mix and match. You should mix and match. You do have that freedom. It doesn't look out of place on the new models, even if they are at the new scale. At least the heads, the shoulder pads, and in many cases, even the old Mark IV arms don't look out of place once they're put onto the new bodies. So yeah, a lot of freedom here, a lot of creativity. I'm excited by that aspect of it tremendously. And again, from a rules perspective as well, because I'm an Iron Hands and a Death Guard player at heart, and those are two legions that figured very heavily in the early activity of the Heresy. Iron Hands is part of the Shattered Legions, right? So I've got an Autek Moore themed force, but I've always wanted to do a Shadrach Methuselah themed force for the Shattered Legions. I've got all this stuff together for Raven Guard and for Sally. So there's just so much potential here. So this to me is a really, really big win. Even if perhaps some of you were not excited by the last book, the Chthonia book, this looks to be one of the main reasons why you would actually buy this book.
Well, let's dive in a bit to the book. And so we are doing the Battle of Beta-Garmon. So there's also going to be lore on what happened there for the Titans and such. But they've also released another Onslaught campaign. And this is a format of campaign that they released in the Siege of Chthoniya. And I'll speak for ourselves. We've yet to even try and play this campaign format because, from my point of view, there's a lot of faults with it. And I very much doubt they've changed the basis for what they're trying to do in this. And I think they've just added some new missions. And the part I really don't like is some of these missions are very, very specific to the legions that they're talking about and are kind of impossible to play with any others.
Yeah, it's possible. You're right. We didn't use the campaign system very much in the original Black Books of 1.0. There were some good ideas in it. There were some ideas that were perhaps didn't work as well as we would like. Um, it's another option, right? And in the absence of actually seeing the rules themselves, we can only just make our best guesses here. Um, yeah, I don't know. We'd have to see it, I guess, to really decide whether or not it's going to be good. I mean, they named some sort of new rule here called the Mortification Index, which gives loyalists a greater chance of seizing strategic advantage as your casualties mount. What does that mean? I mean, if you're a loyalist, it sounds great. You have a better chance of getting first turn and all these different kinds of things. But does it mean that you need to have lost your games horrendously in order for that to trigger? Again, we don't know. But yeah, it's something new. I don't want to say it's good or it's bad because, again, we're just going to guess on it. That seems to be nice. One thing that does kind of stick out to me a little bit, though, is if you've read all of the novels, and I haven't read each and every single one, but I've read probably about 80% of them. The Battle of Beta-Garmon didn't actually have a lot of Blackshields and Shattered Legions, right? So are we going to see another retcon here of the lore to somehow fit these forces into Beta-Garmon where they didn't exist before? Possibly. I don't know. I mean, it looks to be why else would they just throw those rules in there if they weren't somehow connected to Beta-Garmon? So if you're a purist about that, you might be a bit disappointed, but I don't know. I mean, based on the article alone and what we know so far, I mean, this looks to be cautiously a win.
Look, any new rules from me and any new legions that are released, especially the ones we've been waiting for, is a positive. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the way GW does retcon some of these things. Again, it's their lore, they can do what they like, and they've done it over and over again, so I think we should really just get used to it. But especially if you are a big fan of the pure lore that's been written throughout the entire Horus Heresy series and the filling in of everything we wanted there, this is kind of annoying, but not backbone breaking for me. What annoys me... Sorry, go on.
No, please, go ahead.
Well, no, what annoys me slightly more is how they've released some new characters. And I do love new characters, but again, the dispersion of which legions they're for really bugs me.
Yeah, and we could probably do an entire segment on that. I agree with you that some of the legions need more love, and we've talked about that probably ad nauseum in previous episodes at points. One other thing that sticks out to me as well when it comes to the Shattered Legions, the way the rules were written in 1.0, there were some pretty nasty combinations of legions and the allies matrix and all the different ways that these things could work together. There were some pretty nasty combinations that you could make. So fingers crossed that whatever this new system is that we're going to see for the rules for the Shattered Legions in this book, it's not opening up just dumb combinations that are going to be totally overpowered. And really, it's going to be more about capturing the flavor. Me personally, and everybody's opinion is different. Me personally, for the Shattered Legions, these rules should be all about the flavor of the lore and not about finding the game-breaking combinations. So that's my hope. But we'll see what happens because the track record that we've seen so far on 2.0 in terms of, I don't want to say play testing, but let's just say that it seems like some ideas haven't been fully thought out. I'm hoping that that isn't the case with the Shattered Legions and we get something that's kind of broken on arrival.
Well, honestly, only time will tell for that. We'll have to see exactly how it is. An easy fix, and this is a fix we've seen in lots of places, is just not allowing allies to be played. A lot of tournaments do that, don't allow the allies in. We've done that ourselves in our own Far East Wargaming tournaments here, just because, as Jason did allude, there are some pretty game-breaking combinations you can do even currently now.
Yes. Probably my last comment on this particular article is they do call out rules for Horus Aximan, Tybalt Mar, who was an Alpha Legion guy. Or no, he was actually Sons of Horus. Excuse me.
Yeah, two Sons of Horus
Uh,
there. Yeah.
two sons of Horus, and then we got Shadrach Medicine, who was the Iron Hands character, and then we also have Endred Har, who was the Black Shield from the World Eaters. Um, does this hint that we're going to get miniatures for these guys? I don't know. I hope so, because they're great characters, and in the past, all of these guys kind of had to be, for the most part, converted or making your own versions. Maybe we're going to get minis. I don't know. Fingers crossed.
Yep, definitely fingers crossed. I'm actually hoping they do the Iron Hands and the World Eater one before they even think about doing two more Sons of Horus ones, because that's all we need right now. More Sons of Horus characters there. It would have been nice to see a Raven Guard one. We're talking about the Shadow Legions here. A Raven Guard one or one of the Salamanders ones. These are two legions that very much need character love that could have been fulfilled here. We really did not need Little Horus Axeman or Tybalt Mar as rule sets or as characters now, because now I think the Sons of Horus throughout the book, the latest update in Cathonia, and this update have a plethora of characters that you probably would never use.
Oh, I'm totally disappointed we don't have more Imperial Fist stuff as part of this book. Well, at least they didn't mention it, but maybe we get the book in our hands, and there you go. There's more Imperial Fist stuff. We'll see. But no, I mean, again, just purely Blackshields and purely Shattered Legions. I'm so excited for this book, and I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Yep, they did hint that there's some stuff about the Blood Angels as well. But we'll see how that goes, and we'll see when it comes out, because it's nice that they announced it, but I've got a feeling won't come out till sometime in mid to end of Q2.
What else did we have? We also had an update on some artwork. Want to talk about that next?
Well, we can talk about the artwork. Yeah. So they did some stuff. So Black Library have released their latest book full of the artwork of the Horus Heresy, and honestly, I love the artwork getting in the Horus Heresy. It's one of actually my favorite parts, and I'm a big fan of it. And I try and pick up artwork as it comes out, whether it's in print or in the book versions, these coffee table books. I just think what they've done, or what they've allowed the artists to do in the collections they've made, really showcase the 30th century, the 30,000th century for Warhammer and Games Workshop. And I think the artwork in these ones are vastly better than the later artwork coming out now for 40k.
Yeah, from the article, a lot of this art that's going to be included in the book is basically reprints of the covers of the novels themselves, right? But it does possibly seem like there might be a new piece here and there that I don't recognize, or at least is not from the books. It does seem that there's going to be a lot of commentary that goes along with it, and I'm with you. I love collecting those books as well. So I have like the Visions of Heresy books, which have a lot of the artwork from the old trading card game and this kind of stuff. And it serves as a lot of inspiration if you're into the hobbying and the modeling aspect. So this to me is definitely a good book to pick up for that. What I would love to see is them release this in a calendar format where we can also get these prints or pull them apart and put them in frames and something like that. I think that would be awesome as well. But yeah, this is going to be another one for the collectors like yourself, somebody that's way into the art. It's going to be for the people into the hobbying and the modeling aspect. It looks to be a little bit more lore written into the article by the samples that they have from the pictures. Yeah, this looks to be a keeper as well. I'm excited to get my hands on this book too.
Yep, there's only 6,500 copies, which honestly isn't that much, and I'm hoping for this limited edition run it goes better than the previous ones they've done just for the end of death there. But I've got a feeling you can order this pre-ordered from your local Games Workshop.
I think so too. I mean, that's typically the way they've done the Black Library celebrations each year, where you can order it at the shop. Please, let's not think too negatively where we have the scalpers coming on board. But yeah, if we can avoid that, I mean, this is going to be a must-have for many of us, and I want to get my hands on it too.
Well, another thing they showed us in the last couple of weeks is the latest for the Solar Auxilia. And we've been seeing some hints at this, but now it's really showcasing the latest Sentinel here. and it's finally got a name, the Hermes Light Sentinel, in 2 variants.
Yeah, this thing is obviously lighter than a normal Sentinel, and it's not the same as the recent heavy Sentinel that they've released. It's got little throwbacks towards armigers in terms of the leg design, the Sentinels themselves that you see in 40K. As far as the model itself goes, I'm positive on it, but I'm not like, wow, I love this thing. Wow, I love it. Not like I've seen for some of the other Solar Aux models. It's interesting. I do like it. I probably, if I'm going to build the Solar Aux Force, which I'm planning to build for the channel and for myself, I probably will get some of these from that aspect. It doesn't knock me off my feet, but I mean, it's a welcome addition to the range, and it's more variability and more options for the Solar Aux players. So from that perspective, yeah, I like it. I just don't think it's the best of the new Solar Aux releases, but I like it. Seems good.
Well, I can see what you mean there. It's a rather basic designed model here. But again, I don't think they really have much room to play with to keep it in line with what the Sentinels became in the 40,000th century there. I like the fact that this one box is including 2 variations, and they're quite drastically different. There's the light one and there's the armored one, and the armored one comes with some extra armor on the legs, the knees, and a more enclosed carapace there. And they give you a bit of information on why you'd have one. The Velataris are the ones who use the more heavily armored one. And I was hoping, and they did it correctly here, there's not only 1 in a box. It's not like a Contemptor. This is coming in 2 to a box. So, yeah, especially when you can have up to 6 in a squadron there. It's nice to see you won't have to buy 6 boxes. You just have to buy 3. And I've got a feeling you'll be needing to run them in squads of more than 3. So 4 to 6 to make these effective. Because I don't think they're going to be very tough. I think they will be weaker than Contemptors, definitely. With hopefully wounds. These being Walker-esque and not a vehicle. So we'll see.
Yeah, it does say that the rules for this and the Atheon, which is the Heavy Sentinel, are going to be in the new Beta-Garmon book. So we know that we're going to get the rules for both of them there. If we talk about the rules perspective and if we talk about the loadout perspective, from a rules perspective, the Solar Aux are in desperate need of things with toughness higher than T3, T4, right? You've got Ogrins, of course, which could be T5, I believe. I wonder what the toughness is going to be on this particular model. Hopefully it's not done as a vehicle. That would be stupid. That wouldn't be consistent with what we've seen on Dreads and Walkers. I hope it's kind of T5, to be honest with you, if you take the armored version. That way they have a little bit of staying power, and they're not just going to melt to things like, bolters or heavy bolters or something like this. So wait and see on that particular one. But as far as loadout goes, the loadout is kind of interesting to me because heavy flamers, let's face it, are not great unless their heavy flamer rule here is something different than a standard heavy flamer. Volkite calivers, I mean, this thing is supposed to be fast and light and supporting breakthroughs. Why would you want a Volkite caliver up in the front? I don't particularly understand that one. It does say that it's going to have a multi-laser or a grenade launcher, depending on which variant that you're going to use. It's a little surprising to me they didn't put anything heavier than that as an option, because the way that the article is written, it says it's going to get around flanks and it's going to melt into cover and it's going to do these different kinds of things. Does it have infiltrate? Does it have outflank? Does it have scout? Don't know, right? But depending on what rules it has, some of these weapons to me are going to be almost useless, to be quite honest with you. But if it is something like an outflanking 6-shot crack grenade launcher, well, yeah, that's going to threaten light armor. That's kind of useful. But it's going to really remain to be seen what the rules are like on it. But as far as the weapons go, I mean, it's not anything too powerful.
Well, it does seem to be anti-infantry focused as opposed to anti-vehicle focused. And I think that's something that's definitely missing in the Solar Aux. Something along the lines of a las cannon or melter would have been appreciated, especially in the armored variant. I don't think that the bigger one has, the heavy sentinel has a las cannon on it either. I think it does have some anti-armor, but not to the strength of strength 9 las cannons there. So yeah, we'll have to see. If it is purely a anti-infantry thing, its versatility, I don't know. Whether you include it too high. I'd like to see this T6, T7, depending on which it was. T6 for the low variant, the light armor, and the slightly heavy one, T7. And I'd love to see the actual heavy Sentinel at T8, very much a bit like a Leviathan there, just a stronger, something tough in the Solar Aux, and probably pointed. I wouldn't say similar, but pointed higher than each of these variants here. But honestly, we'll have to see. We can only wait for the rules to come out to find out. But all in all, I like what they're trying to do with these models. I do like the steampunk side of things here. They've gone for these Solar Orcs. It's a slight change there. I like that they're giving them new stuff. So we didn't have walkers for them originally. Now we have some walkers for them there. I wonder what else we can give the Solar Orcs, or they'll release for the Solar Orcs in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said. I guess the only thing that I would say about the toughness is because the points values are low and because you can take such big units, and we know how difficult T8 is to deal with, multi-wound T8 Leviathans or even multi-wound T7 Contemptors. It's very tricky to balance that, right? Because, I mean, even if this thing was T6, if you can take 6 of them in a unit and they all have T6 and a wound profile, there's no way you can chew through that relatively quickly. I mean, that alone is going to make these things worth their weight in gold if they go that direction. So my money is probably on T4, T5 for this one, T6, maybe T7 for the Atheon. That's kind of where I would see these things fitting in, because otherwise, why would you not just take armies of these things? There's no way anybody can kill them. But yeah, again, we'll see. It's all just, conjecture at this point, and we won't know until we get the book in our hands.
Yep. I'll caveat that. I think that the armor save on these is going to be pretty low. So I think there will be a lot of armor penetration coming to this, as opposed to when we have the Contemptors and the other Space Marine Walkers. Everything is 2+, 5+. So there's a lot more viability there. I don't think these will have an invulnerable save. I think these are likely to have a 3+ or even a 4+ save, especially for the light one, which it just seems kind of open there. I doubt these will be on the lower end of the save spectrum. So I think there will still be, from a normal Space Marine army, a lot that bypasses these armor saves. But again, only time will tell there. And we've got a few more weeks or months to wait for this book to be out. Hopefully the shorter version of that and not the longer one, because we do want to get our hands on this. Because honestly, it's lovely to see these guys in plastic. It's lovely to see them get the love that they deserved and out of resin.
Yes, no argument there. Big fan of plastic Solar Aux. Been said many, many times before. I can't wait for all these new models to come out.
Well, look, the last thing to talk about on today's Heresy Thursday is the latest announcement, the one they've done today. And this is the Legion Siegebreaker console and the new model for this. I've got a lot to say about this, but I know, Jason, you use Siegebreakers, so I'm going to let you take the lead here.
I do use Siegebreakers, and they're a requirement for the Death Guard Creeping Death Rite of War, which is why they're so popular, but I also think Siegebreakers are just good. Granting Sunder to things like missile launchers is a fantastic combination. I don't like this model. I'm sorry. I don't know why it's another Mark 6. I don't know. I mean, an up-armored Mark 6. If a Stormcast Eternal and a Mark 6 and a Gene Stealer Cult character guy with the little tablet table looking thing all had a baby together, this is the model that you would get. Not a fan at all. I'm sorry. I can see it as a basis for some conversions, but credit to Kim Sorensen from the SNN group chat on WhatsApp, who's the first one that I heard call this a Stormcast Eternals hammer. The design on that hammer is terrible. I'm sorry. It's different than anything we've seen before, which I think is a great attempt. But just the look and the style of it, I'm not a fan at all. And it does remind me completely of Stormcast Eternals. And now that he said that and I said it, you're probably not going to be able to get that out of your head. That little tablet that he's carrying, it looks like just a up version of the Mark II guy that we get in the vehicle accessory sprue. It looks like that little hologram thing they're trying to build into it is from the Gene Stealer Cult guy and 40K. The only thing I really like on this model is the backpack. It's cool that we get aerials on a Mark 6 if you want to use that for your Alpha Legions conversions, your characters, or if you want to mix it in as a different kind of Nuncio Vox or Augury Scanner. That is honestly the only thing that I like on this model. I'm not a big fan of anything else. Um, I'm happy that we finally got a Siegebreaker console model, which we've been yelling for since the days of 1.0, but I don't like this one. I really don't. I would much rather convert my own and maybe use this as fodder for other stuff like Tech Marines or swapping the backpack to other models, like I mentioned. And even if I do use this model, that hammer's got to go. That pad has got to go. I'm sorry. It just depends also how they're built into the model as well, but I'm not a fan of this.
I agree on some of these parts. Again, I think the sculpts, just in general, they're getting better and better. So in terms of a modeling wise, the level of detail that's in this, I appreciate it. It is quite clearly an up armored version of a Mark 6, but I think they've missed the mark in a few ways. The pad itself, if this is in resin, is going to be very problematic, especially the wires in the back. Siegebreaker, with his rules, gives Sunder to a unit. So, as a general use for a Siegebreaker, he's never going to be in close combat. Why would you spend the points on a Thunderhammer? What is the thinking behind that? It looks cool, yes. Look, say what you like about the hammer looking like a Stormcast Eternal. It's a new version of a Thunderhammer. I still appreciate what they're trying to do. But it's on the wrong model. It's on the wrong console here. Also, the Mark 6 choice, I think, is the wrong choice, too. We've been shown Mark 2. They just showed a Mark 2 in the Apothecary. I think this would have been a much nicer model in a Mark 2. For me, a Siegebreaker is one of those older models. He's the one there, nitty-gritty down on the ground, working with the teams. He cares less about his own personal armor as opposed to getting stuff done and taking things down. I think it would have been a lot nicer in that mark. I can see what you're saying about the backpack. My fear for this backpack is the way I'm seeing everything connected here, especially there's the servo arm holding up the tablet. I don't think you'll be able to use this on vastly much more. This might be actually more appropriate for a Master of Signals, having this display down there for a Master of Signals, and I can see conversions happening for that. Yeah, this might be better as a Master of Signals character than the new modern Mark 6 Master of Signals character.
Yeah, I think you meant the Mark 5 Apothecary, not the Mark 2.
Right? Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, I mean, I agree with your point about giving them credit. I mean, the sculpt looks very crisp. It's definitely the new technology in terms of how they model and make the molds and the whole production process. So I do give credit on that. It looks very nice from that perspective. The lines are very sharp. You've got a lot of detail in here that wouldn't be previously seen on a lot of the older Forgeworld stuff. So yes, I give full credit on that. And yes, you're absolutely right. This probably would be better as a Master of Signals in some ways. And yes, I agree with you. Why would you give a Thunderhammer to a Siegebreaker? I mean, you can outfit him for close combat. He's not actually a bad choice, but you're absolutely right. You're wasting the potential of granting Sunder to other things. I don't know. I think for me, this model would have been fantastic even in the new Mark III, but tricked out. Or to your point, I agree with you about the Mark V. We keep getting Mark 6 character, and then we get a bone thrown to us with the Apothecary and something like that, or the Alpha Legion models that came out, or one model that came out. I'm just not a fan. Like I'm really not a fan of this. And it could be the angle of the picture, but when I'm looking at things like his thighs, right? The thighs have this extra detail or I don't know, extra armor or cybernetics or whatever else you want to call built into the thighs, but the angle of the photograph, they look a little bit skinny to me. I don't know. I guess another thing that I could see this character is a basis for like Iron Hands conversions. This would absolutely fit in with the Iron Hands or Iron Warriors conversions into other character models. I think you are right about the way that tablet attaches to the backpack, but because this is resin, this is probably going to be multiple parts, so we'll just have to wait and see how that all connects together. New stuff, good. Crisp, good. A couple things here and there, good. Overall, I'm not a fan. I'm really not a fan of this model. That being said, stupid me is going to probably buy multiples and use them for other stuff because that's just the way I roll. But yeah, I think it could have just been so much better.
Yeah, thinking about it a tiny bit further, the only time I would think I would see a Siegebreaker with a Thunderhammer is if you're putting him into a tactical support squad with melters or something along those lines, and then you're getting sundering melter guns. That's quite powerful, and then since they're up close, there will be close combat afterwards. But most of the time I've done something in terms of using a tactical support melter, they've rarely got into close combat. They get shot to death before they get assaulted. So it's just very situational. I would have loved to see this entire model. Just give them some options for even just a sword, a power sword, chain sword, what it basically comes with. Give us a hand for that. That would have been enough. But unnecessary. It's a bit like my pet peeve with the latest characters. Everybody's including a Volkite. And who pays 2 points for a Volkite on your character? It's the most annoying thing in pointing, because suddenly 2 points is cropped up somewhere and you can't get that 5 points or that 10 points anymore that you needed for something more useful. Or you have got to go find a odd-sided wrist with a new gun on it to replace it on your character.
Yeah, all fair points. And I think that would be a brilliant thing, is to release perhaps a character accessory sprue, right? Just like we've seen the recent upgrade kits for the various legions, including most recently the Blood Angels. Yeah, GW, make one for characters. Again, it's going to depend, I think, on how the pieces of this particular model fit together, how easy it's going to be to replace that Thunderhammer. You don't have to use the model as is, right? Like, I know that we're being a little bit pedantic on some of this. So yes, absolutely, you could switch that out, or you could even cut the head off and replace it with an axe head, use him as a tech marine. But yeah, you're right. We'll see. I mean, as far as the most recent character models that have been released, and we talked a lot about previous ones over the last few weeks, this one's going to be on the low end for me in terms of my initial reaction to it. But you never know. I may get the thing in my hands and think totally different, because I had a pretty low opinion of the Mark 6 and the Mark 3 when they were released. They're still not my favorites. I still prefer the old Mark 3 to the new Mark 3. But the new Mark 3 has grown on me, as long as you swap the heads and swap the pads and do different things. So I don't know. We'll see. New stuff, yeah, but meh.
Last saving grace from me for this one is there is no inbuilt insignia for loyalists or traitor there. There's no Eye of Horus. There's nothing emperorish on this, so it is very usable for both sides, which is a small saving grace for me there. But all in all, I think missed the mark here, Games Workshop, for this Siegebreaker. Love the idea of getting the Siegebreaker model. Very confused on what was thought, and I also don't like toes on Space Marines.
Well, that's the design aesthetic of the Mark 6, so you better get used to it. It hasn't gone away. Yeah, he does have a Sons of Horus little thing on his, what appears to be his belt buckle, but that looks to be a decal. It doesn't look to be built in, so I think you're absolutely right about that. Yeah, nothing else from me. Just underwhelmed.
Well, look, that is all for us today on our Heresy Thursday. Thank you for tuning in for this quick video and podcast. For those who are celebrating the Lunar New Year, Gong Hee Fat Choi, I think it's this weekend, so please celebrate it. Hope you guys get a game of Warhammer in the time you can in the holiday period. We do celebrate that out here in Asia, in Malaysia, at Far East Wargaming, so we'll be running around for that. But thanks for tuning in. If you have stayed to the end and you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please don't forget to hit that bell notification icon to get notified of our latest videos. We release videos on a Thursday and a Monday, And if you have any comments about anything we've talked about here, please put them in the comments. We're happy to reply, to discuss what's gone on in this podcast for the latest releases from Games Workshop. I know our opinions aren't universal, but they are our opinions, and we are happy to debate them.
Absolutely. And you know that you'll always get pretty much an unfiltered take from us. It's not going to, be pure hate or pure love. It's always going to be how we truly feel. So yes, thanks everybody for joining in on another Heresy Thursday. For those that stayed around, thank you so much. And we will catch you on the next one.